I mean, for me, it was outrageous. I mean, I literally watched them zero in on civilians, a passageway that was known to be used for civilians. So I think the importance of journalists on the ground here is more pronounced than ever for me, because we have Putin saying he is not targeting civilians, and I was there and I witnessed it. We need these accounts public. We need people to see what's happening. We need to show that the propaganda he's saying is just not true.
The latest from Ukraine is that a fresh bid to evacuate civilians from the southern city of Mariupol has been called off. The city council said the attempt wasn't possible because of continued Russian shelling, despite an agreed ceasefire. Elsewhere, at least 3 people have reportedly been killed fleeing the town of Irpin, 12 miles northwest of Kyiv, after Russian mortar shells targeted a damaged bridge they were using.
Що вчора було з дітьми, кажеш?
Погано було. Дітей 200-х вивозили, мирне населення, маленькі. Смотрите его!
That was some audio from the videographer that was alongside my next guest, Lynsey Addario, a Pulitzer Prize-winning photojournalist who's in Ukraine on assignment for the New York Times and was literally across the road from that explosion. Lynsey, thank you for giving me your time. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm angry. I'm sad. I can't believe that this is happening before our eyes. So yeah, it was a tough day.
I've watched the video over and over again. I can't. 2 seconds after the explosion, all I can see in the frame is you with your helmet on, your flak jacket, holding your camera, going towards the explosion. Can you tell us where you were? What happened?
I mean, we thought we were going toward a civilian passageway where people were evacuating, and I didn't really believe that Russian troops would target a place that was a known evacuation site for civilians. Yesterday, there were journalists from around the world. Those pictures were published all over. So it's not possible that people didn't know that civilians were evacuating there. It was very known. And so we went there, and shortly after we got there, there was a cement wall. We were sort of standing behind there for cover while we gauged sort of what was happening, and mortar rounds started coming in, but a bit removed from us, probably about 200 meters away. And so I assumed they were targeting a position where the Ukrainian military was off in the distance. And my security advisor said, maybe we should get going. And I said, yeah, but that's where our car is. So I don't really want to run toward that area because they're probably zeroing in on that position. And right after, they literally started bracketing closer and closer to where the civilians were. And that mortar landed 20 meters from us. We were very, very lucky. We were in a sort of cement box, so we hit the ground immediately. And a family was killed. I mean, I think the father may still be alive. We're not sure, but the rest were dead.
It's extraordinary footage, and extraordinary to see you rushing towards that explosion, holding your camera. We've also seen footage of a Sky News crew coming under attack whilst they've been driving in their car. It would be a stupid question to ask you how safe you feel wearing your flak jacket and your helmet saying press, but it seems that even press or anybody seem to be fair game to the Russian soldiers.
Yeah, I mean, increasingly civilians and journalists are coming under fire daily. And I think, in other wars I've covered, there has been some sort of respect for the international journalists. We are there to witness what's going on. And that is just not the case. I mean, we have to put media, we have to put press in a sense, because, we hope that it provides us with some sort of cover, some sort of protection, but we just, we have to cover this. I mean, these are civilians deliberately being targeted.
Lynsey, What about what you have witnessed, the morale of the people? You've had some extraordinary stories. You've had some extraordinary photos that have made their way to the front pages of newspapers around the globe. People at train stations putting their family and waving goodbye to them, and the early evacuation scenes of Kyiv. What do you make of the morale where you are? You're very close to Kyiv, 12 miles away. What's the morale and the general attitude of the people there?
I mean, now I'm back in Kyiv. I just went out there this morning and again this afternoon. People are determined to fight for their country. The morale is determination. They are resilient. They're incredibly brave. I mean, when we went back this afternoon, we went to a position that was about 2 kilometers back from the bridge where we had been this morning, because the fighting had intensified at the bridge already this afternoon, and it was impossible to get back there. But there were ambulances and just emergency workers going back and forth, literally under shelling, to take civilians and bring them out to safety. I mean, people are incredible. They're brave and they are determined, and the morale seems like they just want to defend their country.
Lynsey, also, last time I spoke to you, it was halfway through the pandemic. You had taken those extraordinary pictures of intensive care units of some of the first patients of COVID-19. Looking at your Instagram feed again, you've made yourself, you've entered some makeshift hospitals. You've got some incredibly stunning pictures of babies being born. And of course, we forget that people who have to have their cancer treatments, people who have to give birth, this is all still happening whilst this nation is under shelling from the Russian army.
Of course, and not everyone has the resources to leave. I mean, it takes a lot to uproot your entire life, to pick up with your children and to leave to a foreign country, to not know where you will go, where you will end up. It takes not only financial resources but emotional resources, And so I think while we see droves of people leaving, there are people who are staying, and there are people who are too ill to leave. There are people who are about to give birth, who are in the basements of maternity hospitals. So yes, life has to go on.
You photographed a maternity unit. Can you tell us a little bit more? Where was that? How did you get to be there?
So we went there with a group of journalists, and there were dozens of women and their partners living in a basement. Some were in labor, some had just given birth. There was a woman who had given birth by cesarean section and was brought down into the basement for recovery. It's basically, life has gone underground here.
And Lynsey, I mean, having watched that video of what you went through this morning, being 20 meters away from a mortar attack, the time that you've spent there so far, I know that you've spent time in war zones all over the world. You've seen so many things in your professional career that you photographed. But for the last 10 days, what are some of the situations that you've been in that will stay with you for time to come?
I mean, I think everything, just going down into the subway stations and seeing families living on, on the subway platforms, the hospitals, the maternity hospital underground, the shelling, the deliberate shelling of civilians. I mean, for me, it was outrageous. I mean, I literally watched them zero in on civilians, a passageway that was known to be used for civilians. So I think the importance of journalists on the ground here is more pronounced than ever for me, because we have Putin saying he is not targeting civilians, and I was there and I witnessed it. We need these accounts public. We need people to see what's happening. We need to show that the propaganda he's saying is just not true.
Lynsey, thank you for joining me, and thank you for the work that you do on the ground. As you said, it's imperative for us to see it, and for having people like yourself to witness it. I implore you, I'm sure you and your team do everything you can to stay safe, but I really do hope that you do stay safe and that we get to have plenty more conversations in the time to come.